Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11. And of course, we're playing as Japan. I was asked some time ago now, only just now actually sort of did some research on it. Did Japan have mountain infantry units? And the short answer is no, they did not. Now, I thought, and truly it was thought, I didn't know, but it did confirm that I was right, that they did have mountain infantry guns. And they were a very large user of mountain infantry guns. The one little brief thing that I saw on it claimed that they were like the biggest user in World War II. And they very well may be. But I do know the Italians, most infantry divisions in Italy, which did have mountain infantry units, but most infantry divisions had mountain guns in them as well. Their use is sort of twofold. One, Italy, you know, the central part of it, many of its islands, and it's sort of threatened borders either with France or with Germany, because remember it fought, well, Austria, but lots of German troops were sent down into Austria to help the Austrians fight there, and Mussolini, until he gets allied with Hitler, his main worry is Nazi Germany from a strategical point of view, to the point that he's promoting up the Three Powers Pact with Austria, Hungary, and Italy, primarily in defense against Germany. And he's also allied with Britain and France, but he doesn't trust that they, and rightly so as it turns out, that they would come to his aid in a war against Germany, in that they didn't come to Czechoslovakia's aid and only belatedly they didn't come to Austria's aid and only belatedly, and didn't come, as I'm thinking about all this, didn't come to Lithuania's aid over Memel, only belatedly came to Poland's aid, and only reluctantly. So part of it is that most Italian infantry divisions could be expected to be fighting in the mountains. So you have regular, big guns. Often in World War II, they were leftover World War I guns. Not just the same model still being made, but leftover guns. That's just how poor Italy was. And so you have, big guns that you're not getting up any special mountain kind of thing at all. But you also have these light guns that you can get them up the mountain, because you can look at like the battles of Monte Cassino or wherever. You can have both operating in there. But also part of it is, go back to that earlier statement that Italy was quite poor, and mountain guns are cheaper, particularly cheaper in the ammunition, in that they use smaller caliber ammunition, especially Italy's did, and that it depends on the model. They may or may not be actually cheaper to make, but they're cheaper than cheaper than the same caliber gun not in a mountain configuration to make, meaning that you can quickly disassemble, take the wheels off, take the gun barrel off, and I don't know just how much of the frame, trail, whatever you want to call it, of the gun do we have here. How much of the what we can call the trail coming back here, how much of that it can be broken down. It depends on the model, versus the gun barrel versus the recoil system and whatnot. You may be involved in making a pack artillery. So of the same basic caliber, similar sort of type, the mountain gun may be more expensive than the regular, but the mountain gun is cheaper than the bigger artillery pieces that were with the division, but heavily cheaper. was the ammunition. Just it's smaller, easier to make, and also the transportation was a problem. Not just the part of the reason they have mostly light. There are a few 105 millimeter mountain guns in World War II, but mostly you have lighter guns because you got to haul that ammunition up the hill, and it gets painful carrying that ammo up the hill. Trust me. So you want to have it in smaller loads. But it's also with Italy, it's just generally speaking transporting the ammo around, not just up the hill, but down the freaking road. You know, how many wagons, because Italy is not a motorized army, so how many wagons do you have per 100 rounds of ammunition? You know, is it 4 wagons or is it 2 wagons, you know, with all their horses? And then if you get enough wagons, you got to have another wagon full of food for the animals that are, you know, towing, because they got to walk all day and presumably sleep all night. They don't have any time to sort of go graze, you know, to wander around the field. Because I know a lot of people, you know, well, yeah, the horses can just eat off the side of the road. Yeah, they can. Okay, you walk them for a day. Oh, okay, move them, you know, march them fast, you know, not just slowly walk them, but not like a, you know, cavalry charge speed, but just fast sort of trot. Okay, walk them for a day. Okay, now we're going to sit here for a day and wait for them to eat enough, because they didn't eat yesterday because they walked all of yesterday. Horses are, again, I know I've gone over this and a lot of you have heard this, horses are very delicate creatures, more delicate than humans. They've got to, if you're going to work an animal like that, they burn lots of calories. You've got to replace them. So if you have good high density fodder, particularly the British were very good with this in the 18th century, often with oats and things like this, that, you know, a mouthful of oats or whatever is going to get you a lot more nutrition than a mouthful of grass. That's why humans don't eat grass, but they do eat oats. And also, which all the cavalry troopers carried little sickles or scythes in their pack to go quickly cut, because they can sort of cut grass, you know, sort of long, sort of tallish grass, faster than a horse can eat it. And so they go and, you know, get it all and then sort of bundle it up and carry it with them and then sort of feed them at night, because horses can sort of stand there and eat out of a feed bag at night, but they really don't want to wander around the field trying to munch grass at night. So they would, you know, the soldiers would be out, you know, in the 18th century collecting the grass in the morning before going riding. So it's a lot to keep horses going, and you don't want to use ox carts in World War II to move anything on a military sense. So, you know, how much food are you going to have to provide? And since you're moving a few divisions around, even just foot divisions, whether they have horse reconnaissance units or not, they're going to eat up all that extra grass, or the guys that are going to scythe the grass down, you know. And you've been to Italy, a lot of, particularly southern Italy, seems fairly dry. So, you know, it's not just like there's going to be nice tender grass to eat, and you're going to scythe all that grass down in, you know, very quick periods of time. And then what are the next 200-300 horses going to eat? You know, that show up an hour later, you know, with their riders. So you have to transport food for the horses, and so you can see. So that was Italy's reason for using mountain guns. Japan, I think, is a similar one. Again, I say I think because I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Japan, of course, is a mountainous country. I don't know how much the Japanese army thought about fighting in Japan. I just don't know how much that is, because me as a war gamer sort of looks at an army. Oh, okay, yeah. And then, oh, well, we're going to fight with that army in North Africa, or fight with that army in a jungle, or fight with that army in Brazil, you know, which I guess could be a jungle, but I was thinking of Asia. You know, we're just sort of looking all over at all kinds of terrains and doing that. And since I'm, you know, like probably most of you are, war gamers, we sort of fight wars everywhere, different periods, different times, different things. But let's take Denmark, for example. If you're the defense minister or the general in charge or the planning commissioner group or whatever within the Danish Army. You're going to look right there. How do we defend that piece of territory? Now, we're the Army. We're not the Air Force. We're not the Navy. We're the Army. We may plan joint operations with those two other forces. Well, I guess you also maybe have this little island here, but maybe you've written off this island because you can't defend it. So if whether it's the Germans, the Swedes, or the Soviets or Russians or the Poles or the Americans showing up, whoever it might be, or if the Congolese somehow get a navy and decide to come on and invade Denmark, you're deciding you just can't defend this. Okay, so maybe you're gonna study defense, and you're going to look at intentions are definitely a big thing, because let's say post World War II, Denmark joins NATO, so it's probably not worried about defending too much against the US, because probably they're both in NATO. US is probably not going to be the attacker. You're in NATO, there is a Warsaw Pact. Most likely the attack is going to come from the Soviet Union or the Warsaw Pact or whatever. So you do look at intentions, but that isn't always going to hold true, because maybe NATO is going to fall apart next year. Trump. Sorry to get onto this, but I was tweeting back and forth with some Paradox employees on their private accounts. This was just as a person, and one of them, one of them was lamenting that, alt-righters and one of their people are throwing around treason. This was after Trump did his treason ? Tweet. A lot. And I point out, look at one of our intelligence heads under Obama already has been calling Trump treasonous, so it's both sides. And he goes, yeah, you're right, it's both sides, it's just the thing. But then another one chimed in, yeah, but there's more reason with Trump, because what he was with that, he's siding with Russia over his own, with the summit or whatever, with Russia over his own intelligence agencies. Right. And I didn't pursue this just because I'm being friendly and whatever. But are they forgetting that when Obama was caught on a hot mic talking to Medvedev, sorry, I'm getting that butchered a little bit. You know who I am. The vice president, Putin's stooge. Tell Putin that, or these are very close to the word, tell Putin that I'll have a lot more latitude once the election's over. And M-dude, normally I can say his name, but I'm sort of, I'll convey that message to Putin, is his reply. So was Obama colluding? We have on tape Obama colluding with Putin. Now, is that treason? I don't think so, but he's colluding with Putin. And he's okay. But Trump is siding with Putin over his intelligence agencies. Yeah, you lefties. This is the same intelligence agency that assured Bush, because Bush was assured by his intelligence agency, that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And you were all up in arms. Bush lied. People died. Bush didn't lie. Bush was told. And then we've actually tracked it back to an anti, since then, an anti-Saddam Hussein Iraqi who was sort of involved in their chem program or something at some point, who had gotten out and basically lied to people like Colin Powell and others. He lied. They believed him. Maybe they wanted to believe him. Maybe it was confirmation bias. They think he has it. Somebody says he has it who should be able to know. He gives details that he should be able to know, but he lies. But they decide to believe it because it goes along with their confirmation. Okay, so Bush went along with his intelligence agency and went to war and didn't disagree with it. Okay. So this is this same intelligence agency who the CIA, the NSA, the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, all of these people who the left constantly says lies about all kinds of things. And now you're blaming Trump for disagreeing with them? Are you just flat out lying, flat out don't remember what you said 2 years ago, or just nuts? And some of these people are responsible thinkers that are, responsible commentators that should be thinking and remembering things. Some of these are legislatures. They've been elected to offices. And so you're because Trump is going against his intelligence agencies, and 10 minutes ago you were saying these intelligence agencies lied to the president and got us into Iran or Iraq or whatever the hell it may be, or overthrowing governments illegally, or these are the same intelligence agencies you charge with smuggling crack cocaine into America to one, beat down the black guys, and two, to fund illegal wars in Latin America. These guys he's going against, and you're upset? I would think you'd be going, oh, CIA says Putin is trying to subvert America, and Trump says, hell no, CIA is lying. I think you'd be going, finally an American president agrees that the CIA is lying. I would think you would do it. No, because it's Trump, so you'll say or do anything, so you're lying. Okay. Sorry, got that off my chest. But back to Denmark here. So what can happen is when we were sort of Trump, is maybe Trump pulls out of NATO or whatever, NATO falls apart, and that could fall apart in 6 months or in a couple of years from now and go bye-bye. NATO goes bye-bye. And then let's just go with Sweden Democrats, the party that just got, I think, 18% of the vote in Sweden last Sunday. They're still tallying it up. I think Wednesday, this may be going out Wednesday. This video, I'm not sure. And so that, but let's just say, and they seem to be a not center right, but a sort of a right wing party, but doesn't seem to be. I know I've heard at least a translation of somebody already saying that they're showing their Nazi roots. And yes, there were multiple Nazi parties in Sweden during World War II. I don't know. I don't know the details of who all the leadership elements are. I don't know. But from what little I know, it does not seem to be a fascist or National Socialist Nazi party. And if you want to pull up some, the left party or whatever it is in Sweden, not just, sort of center left, but the left, or you want to pull up some communists or whatever it might be, and well, they've called it that. Yeah, okay, but these are the same people that call Bush Hitler, and the Republicans are Nazis. And so since the Republicans are for freedom of speech and against racism, and because you got to remember, people, and I know there's a lot of Europeans that don't know American history. I mean, you guys don't know the American history. The Republican Party was founded by abolitionists. Abolitionists are people against slavery and for equal rights for all people. The Republicans were founded on that principle. They fought a civil war under Lincoln against the Democrats for equality. Okay? The Republicans were for equality. The Democrats were for the Jim Crow laws. These aren't the Nazis in America. So anyone who calls Republicans Nazis, anyone who calls Trump a Nazi or a fascist is lying to you or misguided, and you should not listen to him. If he is your professor in an American school or in anywhere in the world, Trump is not a fascist. Trump is not a Nazi. Okay? Clearly, he is not. Now, maybe he's a bad dude. Notice I'm not trying to say he's Mr. Wonderful and you should love everything he does. And, oh, well, but he's a racist. Oh, yeah, he was a racist until, what was it? Sometime in 2015, or was it 2016, he becomes a racist. Because you can see all these NAACP awards he got as a businessman. You can see all of these people that are later calling him a racist, shaking his hand and wanting to get his attention in photos and other things. He was very much not known as a racist until he runs for the presidency. So I don't know what his racial views are privately, but he is not a Nazi. You're listening to propaganda. If you say that he is, you're misleading people. You can say he lies about things. He exaggerates things, and an exaggeration is a type of lie. I have the biggest crowds in the world. No. Now, he may actually be able to pass a lie detector as he's saying it because he believes it. Now, you may show him the evidence and go, oh, no, sorry, I don't. But he won't admit the lies. I'm not defending Trump on everything he does. God, no. But he's no Nazi. Okay. I don't think the Sweden Democrats are Nazis or fascists. I may be wrong because I don't speak Swedish. I'm not embedded in the political situation right now. But let's just say they turn out to be that. Okay, so you have the Sweden Democrats, NATO falls apart, and say in 2 years from now they've taken over the Swedish government and they want to unite Scandinavia into one supernation. Okay, so you go from now to 2 years from now, and Sweden wanting to invade Denmark. Well, Denmark, the thinkers in Denmark have to prepare for that now, because Sweden may be the most wonderful government today, like the Weimar Republic may have been viewed under, by most Western nations as being a wonderful government. But, Hitler gets elected and everything changes. I don't think anything's going to go crazy in Sweden or go crazy again in Germany. But it can turn on a dime. And 2 or 3 years is turning on the dime. So you need to plan your defense budgets and your defenses. Now maybe Denmark is going, we can't even stop Belgium from invading us, even though they only have 2 boats to be able to come up here, and they only got 2 fishing boats that could land troops at a time, and we know they'll kick our butts, and so we don't even bother with it. That's one defense that you could try out, just decide to be so inoffensive. But that would be, in my opinion, criminal. So you plan what to do if, what kind of weapons to get for. I know Denmark has been putting some troops into Afghanistan, and I think for their relatively small contingent, maybe relatively big for the size of their nation, but relatively small contingent, they're doing well. But you have basically absolutely no mountains in Denmark. So unless you're really planning on either 1, invading Norway or Sweden or someplace like that, or 2, you're planning on doing a joint defense, Soviets may attack, we're going to go and defend, somewhere outside of Denmark, you don't need to build mountain divisions. You build coastal defense units. You build, like I said, you can say that kind of thing, and that could be, big guns just get bombed and destroyed, so we're going to do, Exocet missiles or something on the back of trucks that we can move around, camouflage, and we're going to do surface-to-air missiles on the back of trucks that we can move around and camouflage, and they even make some coastal defense guns that, are sort of more or less artillery pieces, but designed to set up and designed to shoot at ships that are, again, on the back of trucks or something. So you build and defend your army to defend here. And that's what you do. Or maybe it's more here now. But, so, you defend, you set up to defend. Denmark does Denmark. Now, Poland realizes, hey, we have to, defend against every single direction. but you have to plan for that. Okay, so armies have to plan for the types of war they're likely to fight. Again, the American Army, almost the one place it's least likely to fight. Think of the whole globe. The American Army, what is the one area on the globe that it's least likely to fight? It might fight there. It has fought there. It actually has fought there a few times, technically, but well, more than a few times. But in modern day world, what can you guys picture in your mind? I'm going to tell you where it is in a moment, but picture in your mind, what is the least likely spot on the globe there to fight? Is it Antarctica? Is it Greenland? Is it Iceland? Iceland doesn't have an army. It does have a coast guard, though. It doesn't have an army. It doesn't have a navy. It has a coast guard. You can look up on Wikipedia. They list every single firearm the Coast Guard sort of has, and it's sort of their de facto army, but they can't have one. Is it Iceland? Where would the one place be that they're least likely to fight? Is it somewhere like Kazakhstan or someplace, in here? Is it Moscow? They're least likely to fight in Moscow. What? And okay, look, we're talking something bigger than a particular city. Where's the least likely on the whole planet, the whole globe, the one place that the army is least likely to fight? Love to have you put it down there. I'll be really suspicious if you get it right. I mean, they do plan to fight there, but it's the least likely place they plan to fight. So the one place they could, the least likely place for them to fight is the continental United States. Say that because they might fight up in Alaska, but the least likely place for the United States Army to fight is in the United States. Let that sink in for a moment. Now, of course, we deploy troops. As I'm recording this, there's a hurricane barreling towards Georgia and the Carolinas. They may deploy troops to there. I've talked about how they deployed troops to LA because of the riots. So the U.S. Army may shoot somebody, defending against the riots or defending against looters or something like that. But the least really sort of military, of course you can have special operations units trying to take out a hostage terrorist type thingy or something, that can happen. But as a military exercise, really, it's least likely to fight in the United States. It's more likely to fight outside of the United States. That is sort of my understanding is Japan. Japan presumes, and has been the case, that at least in its sort of main central home islands, that is the least likely place that they will fight their army, because their navy, and before World War II, and they have a very large navy today. People don't talk about it, but they do. And I know they have the Japanese Defense Force, but I don't really know what they plan to do with it, because unless you're throwing around big nuclear missiles, I really don't think you're... Because part of the people who they were planning on during the Cold War was the Soviet Pacific Fleet, which was never very large. But they looked at that, and of course China's fleet was even smaller. Now it's getting bigger, and the Soviets is getting smaller. But so who was going to be invading them? The U.S. wasn't, because we already sort of taught the Japanese you don't go to war with America, and I think Japan has learned that lesson. I would I would really think deeply and hard about it. Do you really see any reasonably conceivable future in which Japan itself decides to go to war with America? Now, if America decides to go to war with it, I'm sure it'll defend itself. But I can't imagine them ever deciding to go to war with us, ever deciding to side with if we decide, oh, well, for some reason we tomorrow hate South Korea. And I don't know that there's any sort of defense pact between South Korea and Japan, even if there may be a private one. I just don't think Japan is going to side with South Korea or China or Russia or anybody on the planet against us. Now, they may go entirely neutral. They may do what they hated us for doing, embargoing against us. I know this is turning out to be a long episode with nothing going on. Sorry about that. But they've learned not to go to war with America. And so, yeah, maybe 500 years from now, the world will have changed so much, and they may decide to go to war with us again. But not in any conceivable future that we're seeing, that we can conceive of the next 50 to 100 years, are we likely to see Japan go to war with us. I guess the only sort of kind of thing I could see is somehow Al-Qaeda takes it over and converts everyone to Islam, or I think that would be the most likely chance. Now, since basically Japan has almost zero immigration, they do let, some foreigners like Americans in, but, to live there. But they have almost zero immigration. I don't think you're going to have Al-Qaeda taking over Japan and turning it Islamic. Since most of the communist countries today aren't practicing communism, like China and South Vietnam, they claim to be communist, and I know Serpent ZA, as he says, ZA, is a South African living in China, and video blogs from there, actually from down here. But he, recently made an episode, China is not, or is China communist or something like that, and he goes, no, it's capitalist, it's entirely capitalist, and he's entirely wrong about that. It is not, well, okay, let me slightly state, it is not free market capitalist, it is a state capitalist and a statist sort of situation, not quite mercantilism, because mercantilism has a slightly different approach to things. But he is right that it is not communist, but nor is it free market capitalism either. So don't blame the bad things that are going on in China on capitalism. It's this sort of state, sometimes called crony capitalism nowadays in America, but it's sort of that type of thing, crony capitalist or state capitalist, but it isn't. Okay, what I'm going to do now is save all of you who don't like these long talks. I'm going to end the episode now, and I'm going to put I talk a lot, no gameplay tag on this, so that if you're here for because I really do try to be good, people. I try to be good. I want to be very clear. There are a lot of good people out there, including like Benjamin Magnus out there, who does Hearts of Iron 3 still, as well as many other games, him and other people that can do this as good, if not, generally speaking, as I do. Play games and present them on YouTube, being a YouTuber, a gamer on YouTube. For me to be different than everybody else, and I'm not going to be the best comedian, I'm not going to be the funniest guy to watch. I think I'm fairly good at this game. I think I'm fairly good at some of the other games that I play. I don't claim or think that I'm the best. I think there are probably better people out there. And some of the games I know very much, they're better, that there are very better people out there than me. So for me to be both different always doesn't mean good, but also interesting, is to give good historical lessons and other talks while playing. And so to carve out a niche for myself, and I think it can be much larger than it is, that's what I'm going to do. But I do realize that there needs to be a balance. I truly do realize that. And call me on it when you see, you think I'm going too far in either direction. Though normally it's too far into the talky talk direction, but still. I try to be good, try to balance it, so it's always going to be part of the channel. If you can't take that, I'm sorry, this isn't for you. But if you go, hey, I want to see some gameplay, don't mind you talking while you play the game, I totally get you and you're right. Okay, so this one will be all talk, no play episode. I'll label it that way, so yep, if you don't want to watch this, you don't really get an episode today, but you won't have to waste your time looking for the gameplay. But so next episode we will be playing the game, because I'm going to make it right after this, and I've got a lot of this thoughts out of my head in this episode. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the game, and of course, please comment on what I've said. Tell me why I'm wrong. I mean, if you don't just tell me that I'm wrong, I'm sure I'm wrong on something, but tell me why I'm wrong. I really love talking to you and having a back and forth on it. Just keep it civil, keep it polite, and we're all good there. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.